For most people, September 13th, 1978 was an ordinary Wednesday, but for Cheryl Bradshaw, the Bachelorette on the TV matchmaking show, The Dating Game, that day was momentous. From a lineup of eligible bachelors, she chose handsome bachelor number one, Rodney Acala. But at that very moment, he was keeping a deadly secret. He was an unrepentant serial killer.
A bachelor number one, I am serving you for dinner.
Oh,
What are you called and what do you look like?
I'm called the banana, and I look really good.
Can you be a little more descriptive?
Peel me.
Bradshaw, if not for a healthy jolt of women's intuition, would almost certainly be remembered today as one of Alcala's victims. Instead, after the show ended, she conversed with Acala backstage. He offered her a date she'd never forget, but Bradshaw got the feeling that her handsome potential suitor was a little off. I started to feel ill, Bradshaw told the Sydney Telegraph in 2012. He was acting really creepy. I turned down his offer. I didn't want to see him again. Had the popular dating show performed background checks on their bachelors, they would have discovered that this kind of good-looking but kind of creepy guy had already spent 3 years in prison for raping and beating an 8-year-old girl. He'd done the same to a 13-year-old too, which landed him on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. But sometimes a background check can't uncover the whole story. In Rodney's case, the whole story consisted of at least 4 prior murders that he hadn't been definitively linked to yet. As you can imagine, Cheryl Bradshaw's rejection likely only fueled Alcala's fire. In total, before and after his television appearance, the sadistic dating game killer claimed that he killed between 50 and 100 people. Rodney Acala was born in San Antonio, Texas in 1943. His father moved the family to Mexico when Rodney was 8 years old, only to abandon them 3 years later. His mother then moved Rodney and his sisters to suburban Los Angeles. At the age of 17, Rodney entered the Army as a clerk, but after a nervous breakdown, he was medically discharged due to mental health issues. Then the intelligent young man with an IQ of 135 went on to attend UCLA, but he wouldn't stay on the straight and narrow path for long. Like many serial killers, Rodney Acala had a style. His signatures were beating, biting, raping, and strangling, often choking victims until the point of unconsciousness. Then once they came to, he'd start the process all over again. On his first known attempt at killing, he was successful at only 2 of these things. The victim was Tally Shapiro, an 8-year-old girl he lured into his Hollywood apartment in 1968. Kelly Shapiro barely survived her rape and beating, her life saved by a passerby who reported a tip to police on a possible abduction. Rodney fled his apartment when the police arrived and remained a fugitive for years afterward. Rodney fled to New York and changed his name to John Berger to enroll in film school at New York University, where, ironically enough, he studied under Roman Polanski. After being recognized thanks to an FBI poster, Rodney was finally identified as the perpetrator in the rape and attempted murder of Tally Shapiro. He was arrested in 1971, but only sent to prison on charges of assault. Shapiro's family kept her from testifying, making a rape conviction unobtainable. After spending 3 years behind bars, he soon spent another 2 years in prison for assaulting a 13-year-old girl. Then authorities regrettably let parolee and flight risk Rodney Acala travel to New York to visit relatives. Investigators now believe that within 7 days of his arrival there, he killed a college student named Elaine Hover, who was the daughter of a popular Hollywood nightclub owner and goddaughter of both Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin. Soon after all this, Rodney somehow got a job at the Los Angeles Times as a typesetter in 1978 under his real name, which was now attached to a substantial criminal record. A typist by day, by night he lured in young girls to be part of his professional photography portfolio, some of them to never be heard from again. Now go back and listen to Rodney Acala tell Bachelorette Bradshaw, "The best time is at night." It's absolutely chilling stuff. The year after the dating game appearance, 17-year-old Leanne Leadham was lucky enough to walk away unscathed from a photo shoot with Rodney Acala, and she remarked how he showed her his portfolio, which in addition to shots of women, including spread after spread of naked teenage boys. Police have now released parts of Rodney Acala's portfolio to the public to aid in victim identification. The photos are still available to view. Over the years, a few have stepped forward to reveal their horrifying moment with the predator. The case that would finally break Rodney Acala's killing spree was that of 12-year-old Robin Samsoe. She disappeared from Huntington Beach, California, on her way to ballet class on June 20th, 1979. Robin's friend said that a stranger approached them on the beach and asked if they wanted to do a photo shoot. They declined and Robin left, borrowing a friend's bike so she could go to ballet class. At some point between the beach and class, Robin Samsoe disappeared. Nearly 12 days later, a park ranger found her animal-ravaged bones in a forested area near Pasadena foothills. When police questioned Robin's friends, they described the man that approached them on the beach to a police sketch artist who drew up a composite, and Rodney's former parole officer recognized his face. Between the sketch, Rodney's criminal past, and the discovery of Robin Samsoe's earrings in Rodney Alcala's Seattle storage locker, police felt confident that they had their man. Rodney Acala's trial began in 1980. Robin Samsoe's family would have to follow a rather long and winding road to justice. The jury found Rodney Acala guilty of first-degree murder and he received the death penalty. However, the California Supreme Court overturned this verdict due to the jury being prejudiced, they felt, by learning of Rodney Acala's past sex crimes. It took 6 years to put him back on trial. At a second trial in 1986, another jury sentenced him to death. This one didn't stick either. A Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals panel overturned it in 2001, in part because the second trial judge did not allow a witness to back up the defense's claim that the park ranger who found Robin Samsoe's animal-ravaged body in the mountains had been hypnotized by police investigators. Finally, in 2010, 31 years after the murder, a third trial was held. Just before the trial, Orange County Senior Deputy District Attorney Matt Murphy told LA Weekly the 70s in California was insane as far as the treatment of sexual predators. Rodney Acala is a poster boy for this. It is a total comedy of outrageous stupidity. Rodney Acala has brought two lawsuits against the California penal system, one for a slip and fall accident and another for prison's refusal to provide him with a low-fat menu. Rodney Acala's new trial, to everybody's surprise, he announced that he would be his own lawyer. Even though now 31 years after Robin's murder, investigators also had concrete evidence against him on 4 different murders from decades past, thanks to prison's DNA swabs. The prosecution was able to combine these murder charges along with Robin Samsoe in the 2010 trial. Rodney Acala was found guilty at his third trial and he was sentenced to death, and he is still sitting on death row in California, but he is planning an appeal for the third death sentence. Thanks for watching. As always, leave me your thoughts and opinions below in the comment section.